way I'm going. There ain't got no way, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No. There ain't got no way, ain't got no way I'm gonna make.
As she is standing in the background. Thank you very much for your patience as we deal with the challenges of the technology that comes from time to time. So, I'm going to, without further ado, introduce our guest, Holly Porter, and I will tell you a bit about her before we actually introduce her live on Breaking Out of Depression. So, Holly Porter is an international speaker and creator of 11 startup companies, and she stands as a beacon of resilience. She's a 13-time best-selling author, seasoned philanthropist, and true survivor. Her remarkable journey includes a 70-day battle with COVID-19. Emerging from this challenging experience with unwavering determination, Holly is not just a speaker, but a living testament to the power of resilience. Passionate about wellness, she goes beyond her achievements in the business world. Holly leads a non-debt profit dedicated to aiding the long COVID community, showcasing her commitment to making a positive impact on people's lives. So, without further ado, let's introduce and welcome our guests, Holly Porter, live on Breaking Out of Depression.
Hi, am I
Dexter, can
here?
you bring her in? I can hear you and I
Okay.
can see you. Ah,
Here
there
you
you
are.
are. There you are.
Hello,
There you are.
hello.
Hi, it's wonderful to have you live in the studios with us, and we thank you so very much for supporting and being part of the community as we continue to develop breaking out of depression. So, Holly, you have an amazing story to tell, and I'm sure people are really excited to hear about so much with regards to your ability and your resilience to bounce back and to survive. But when you think back on your story, Holly, and the experience that you have had to go through, what stands out the most for you as you often may go down memory lane? Yeah, that lighting is better.
Yeah, it was like, why am I so dark? I had the wrong camera.
If you can recall for us, what stands out for you? What lingers the most as something you can look forward to from the past with regards to your experience with COVID 19?
Oh, wow. Well, I have a lot of things that stood out, but I think just having that resilience that I was saved. I feel like my story is a miracle and I don't want to waste one day. I got told two specific things to do while I was in my coma, and I'm doing them and I'm working on them. And I've had a lot of adversity along the last 2.5 years that I could have given up and wished I would have went to the other side. There were many days of that were so many heartache situations and family situations. And I thought, why did you save me to put me through this? This is way worse than dying. And so I think it's just knowing that resilience is there and working through it and knowing what I'm supposed to be doing that keeps me really going.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. What it is about having these near death experiences that really make so much of an indelible impact on people's life that it changes their whole perspective. Can you share what it was like for you?
Yeah. Well, I would consider myself more religious 2.5 years ago then I was religious and spiritual. Now I feel like I'm a little bit more spiritual. When you go to a place that is so different from here, that is so hard to describe, that is perfect, and everything is alive and there's no pain, and the energy is just such a different place. I don't know why anyone comes back, honestly. And I know that most of us are told that we need to come back. We need to complete something. It's not our time. We hear that all the time. And I just I just know that I have this journey to do. None of us knows when it's our time. It could be tomorrow, it could be today. We don't know. And I feel like I have this mission and some things to complete, that it wasn't my time. And so, yeah, just striving every day to be a better person and use that information and do good with it.
Thank you for sharing. We appreciate that and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
So, in terms of what you do now with regards to the work that you do in helping people, what is one of the most important thing that you share with them, that you tell them with regards to resilience, bouncing back, and just being grateful for life, the simple things in life that you can enjoy now? What are some of the things that you tell them that makes an impact, a positive impact upon their lives?
Yeah. Well, the biggest message I came back with was to love people where they're at. So it
Uh,
was love them where they're at. We all have our own journeys. And if you think about it that way and you love someone where they are, it takes the judgment away. That judgment, you can't say, well, you should do this and you should do that. It's where they are, it's what they know. And people really tend to do the best they can with what they know. And I believe people that have near death experiences and these out of body experiences and spiritual transformational experiences, all three of those, by the way, are different. I believe they see what they can believe, if that makes sense. So if they create what they see, like I feel like God shows them the way they'll understand it. Or does that make sense?
because we all have so many different levels of understanding, even if we see in the same thing or hearing the same
Yeah,
thing.
right.
Yeah,
But God's very clear. We misunderstand.
that's right. That's absolutely correct. We at times make the mistake of either misinterpreting or misunderstanding exactly what God wants us to hear or do, but He is always very clear about His principles and His commitment to His people. So, Holly, tell us, what was the actual feeling or the emotion, the anxiety, the depression that you felt when you realized, hey, what is this happening to me? How did you feel that? How did that resonate with you in any part of your body? And you had to come up and say, look, Lord, it's either one way or the other. Please tell me, make a decision. What are you going to do? How was that emotionally for you?
Oh, wow. I feel like all the anxiety and the depression became PTSD while I was in the hospital. I didn't know what I was experiencing because they were emotions that I really hadn't experienced. I mean, we all have a bad day, we all can get down. I don't remember the depression coming in the hospital. I was there 70 days and I was intubated twice. I had a trach, had sepsis. I was on a ventilator for 52 days. I was in a coma for 30. And I think I had lots of anxiety. I was really grateful, by the way, that they had put me in a medical induced coma, a lot of times paralyzed, because that's how your body heals. So many drugs through my body. And I am really a holistic healer. So that all happening, I remember the nurse saying to my sisters who were there helping me, because my husband was home with COVID and couldn't come to the hospital the first 3.5 weeks, which is when I had all these experiences. That's when I was the very worst. So that was depressing. When he finally came and had to leave, he could only stay a couple hours because he just didn't have the strength himself to be there. And I remember they said I was really depressed when he left, because this is my husband and he can't even stay with me, and I'm at my very worst. I don't even know if I'm going to live. And I think the nurses would say, Are you sure that she didn't have anxiety before? Because it's really bad. And my sisters would say, no, she isn't on any drugs. She walked in here on no drugs. And I thought, let me take your oxygen away from you and let's see how you react. I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. Wow. So, in terms of the work that you do with wellness advocacy and so on, what are some of the things that you turn to now that you've had the experience and you're actually involved in the work? What are some of the things that you advise people to do so that they stay on that path of wellness with that love and that advocacy just for being a good human being?
Yeah. Well, my saying is better is better. As far as getting health back, I'm still only about 85% of where
All
I
right.
was, which
All
is
right.
huge, huge.
Yes. Yes.
And I think it's just don't give up. It's that find what is going to give you hope, whether that's some people, relationships, people, being around other people charge them up, other people that brings them down. I think it's just figuring out what works for you. And maybe it's a new norm. It's this is where you were, this is where you are, but where do you want to be? And be realistic. If you're talking about a health challenge or that depression, that anxiety that's there, what do you want it to look like? And then what's it going to take to get it to look that way? And getting help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody does it alone in anything.
Right.
We
Yeah.
all need help.
We need a community sometimes around
Absolutely.
us. Yeah. I'm really impressed that you're saying that it's just about 85% that you are working and you're going to achieve more hopefully as time go on. But you have managed to do so much, Holly,
Yeah.
with regards to the startup businesses, 11 of them, and a 13-time best-selling author. How did you manage to do all of this? What was the challenge like for you? I mean, where did all the inspiration come from?
I don't know. I get an idea and I just do it. I don't stop until it's done. And my companies, I mean, I'm older, so a couple of them maybe were only 2 or 3 years old, but some I've had for 20 years. I've been a real estate broker for 20 years. I had a salon and spa for 20 years. So
Uh-huh.
it's not like I just gave up and moved on to something else. They usually overlap, by the way. I'm not
Right.
100 years old, right? I had three or four at a time. But when my
Right,
kids
right.
were growing up, there was a process. It was what can I do to be home with my children? So I started a daycare and I made really good money at my daycare. And then I started a preschool and then I started a kids clothing store. So you can see as my kids got older, I grew with them and did things so that I could still be a mother. I have 8 adult children, but I had four, and we combined four with my husband. So we had 8 teenagers at the same time. It was pretty nuts. Um, and just figuring out, like, with your life, with your schedule, what's going to work and what's not going to work.
Thank you for sharing. We appreciate that, Holly.
You bet.
So during that period of time when you were in and out of these comas and really struggling and fighting for life, how did your family actually deal with it? What coping mechanisms or skills did they have to adopt to deal with it while you were struggling and fighting for life?
Yeah. Well, I have a big family. So we have 8 adult children that are all married with grandkids. And then I'm from a family of 9. So, and
Uh-huh.
then my husband's got a smaller family, but we had tons of family and they all live, well, yeah, all of them live in Utah where we are.
Uh-huh.
So within 4 or 5 hours, everybody is, and most of them 45 minutes away.
Right.
So they couldn't just come visit me though, because remember during COVID, I was lucky by the time I was in their fall of 2021. By that time, they would allow one person every 24 hours. So when my husband was able to come for that short time, they would sneak him in. My sisters, they're twins, just younger than me. They spent every 24 hours. They were there all the time. They just knew intuitively. I don't know if it was, I don't know. I'm very independent. So it was very interesting that they intuitively knew from the beginning I needed someone there all the time. I had another daughter that came. I had another sister. One time, or other, they'd come and sub. But these two sisters were there most of the time with me. And they'd sneak my husband in because they'd bring cookies all the time to the nurses, and even the housekeepers, they'd bring them cookies. And everybody loved my room. They loved coming in there because they just said there was good energy in there, and they would play music, and they just took good care of me. My daughter, I'm a hairdresser by trade, on top of all my other companies, and trained my daughters both to do hair. They did my hair for whatever they could with all the wires and stuff, but they did my nails and my toes while I was in there. I had spa treatment while I was almost dying.
Amazing. That's an amazing story. Thank you. Thank you, Holly, for sharing and being so vulnerable and open.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about the aspects of long COVID, Holly,
sure.
and I know there are some people who are still struggling, who still have concerns, who still have questions. But what are the things that you have learned with regards to long COVID that people should really be aware of, that they need to know from your experience?
Yeah. Well, let me start with a couple stats. So the last stats, when I started the nonprofit 2.5 years ago, there was 65 million people documented cases. So there's way more than that. Then it went to 85 million, and now it's over 100 million. 100 million people documented with long COVID. So I know we all want to not talk about it. We all want it to go away. Trust me, those with long COVID want that nothing more than anyone else. And there's 200 symptoms that are attached to it. So what I would share mostly, I believe the reason the stats in 2.5 years went from 65 million to over 100 million is because people didn't start connecting the dots. So they realized, oh, and the doctors didn't know. Remember, this is a new disease. So they were clueless, and they just thought everybody either was faking it. They just weren't putting one and one together. Now people are getting all these autoimmune, more Alzheimer's, dementia, cancers. I've had melanoma cancer twice now and that's the most deadly cancer there is. I've got a scar on the side of my arm. That's where both of them were. And it's like 7 inches long. So it's just all these things kept happening. I was healthy. I walked in on no drugs. I walked out with 12. I'm off all of them now. And I'm not against drugs. I just think there's a time and a place for all of those things. But if you're somebody who has some newer health challenges, trace it back. And if you had COVID, you can have long COVID, even if you didn't have COVID symptoms, but tested positive. And a lot of people just don't realize that. Oh, I didn't get very sick. I just had like a cold. It doesn't matter. You could still have long COVID. So if there are symptoms since you had COVID that have lasted over 90 days, they linger on, you probably have long COVID. It's probably been what I call lit on fire. Anything dormant, like I ended up with rheumatoid arthritis I didn't have before. And I was a level 2 the first couple months out of the hospital. So it just threw it on fire, and all these challenges happened. And I had 9 doctors, and I didn't ever go to the doctor. In fact, the hospital I was in for the first 5 weeks, they didn't even have a medical record on me for a baseline of anything. And within the 5 weeks I was there, they had 422 records. Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's amazing. It's staggering, Holly, to think that you're not just a survivor, but you're an overcomer.
Yeah.
And God must have really had something wonderful and special and amazing for you to share with and to accomplish. Hence the reason why He allowed you to live.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of scary to hear you say that we can get long COVID without having the original presence of COVID in the first place.
Right.
That's an amazing reality.
Yeah.
And so the next question I want to ask is, where do you think you got the strength and the inspiration and the resilience to be where you are now in this moment and look so good actually?
Oh, thank you. That's sweet. Well, and my list is long. When people say, what did you do to get better?
Uh-huh.
My breath matters. So I'm not going to waste it on somebody who's not willing to do the work and
Right.
do the fight. Right.
Right.
Because it's long. I did many, many things. I'm huge on supplements, and I bought a hyperbaric. That was another miracle. I have so many miracle stories. I didn't ever have insurance until my whole life, until 2 months before I got sick, and my bill
Wow.
was $1 million and some
Wow.
change. So
Wow.
it
Wow.
just goes to show you there was a reason. There was a reason all these things happened, and I believe that. I have the faith that if I was saved, I don't want to waste my time, but I want to share whatever I learn. I want people to know that information if they're open, because better's better. And if they want to get better, there are people. I remember one of my doctors saying to me in the beginning, at least you're being proactive about your situation. And this is when I was pretty bad. But I would go in there, oxygen tanks and all, to the doctor appointments. And I said, well, what else am I going to do? Like, in my mind, there wasn't a question of giving up. It was that it's like I got saved for a reason. Why would I give up? And I said, what else would I do? And she said, I don't know, just sit home on oxygen waiting to die. And I thought, that's not even an option for me. Like, that thought didn't even cross my mind. No matter how much depression, PTSD, everything that was present, especially at that time, that wasn't an option. I knew I had a mission. I knew I had a why I needed to be here. And I could have never told you that before all this happened. I really couldn't.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So, when you get the opportunity, Holly, to stand before a live audience and share your experience with people, what are some of the responses that you get, some of the looks that you see, the impressions and expressions on their faces? What's the feedback that you get,
That I get or they get.
that you get?
Oh, I don't want pity. I want
Ah,
encouraged, hopeful people. And so when I see their eyes light up, or
uh-huh.
when they say, "Oh, that just gave me goosebumps," like,
Mm,
I'm just telling my truth. I'm
right.
just sharing my version of what I know. Right? My sisters will have a different story than I do. But when people that encourages them, or they want to share that story with somebody else, we're working on a book right now. And even though I actually have 15 books that I've been part of. Either they were mine or I've been a part of them.
Oh,
It's
yes.
15 now. It was at 13, but I have a couple more that I've contributed to since then. But this one is the one that I want to be a mover and a shaker on people. I want it to be something that they say, I'm buying all my friends a copy of this book for Christmas. And it's not about the money, because I never wrote any of my books for money. And believe me, they're not money makers. This one it's just that story of resilience and the fight of, and I don't even like the word fight, but I have a painting that I actually had painted that's 6 foot by 4 foot. It's huge. Of my spiritual transformational experience. I had it painted because it just meant so much to me. And it's called fight, because those were the words that when I was praying, if I'm not going to get better, this sucks. Get me out of here. Let's go. One way or another. And then I had this experience that was the line in the sand that told me, I knew, okay, I just had to fight. That's all right. Got it. Message loud and clear. Here we go. And I was still in the hospital, I think about 7 weeks after that. Yeah.
An amazing story. So we have Holly Porter in the house, and if you have any comments or questions that you'd like to put forward at this time, you can do so in the chat. This is one of the most amazing stories that we've had the privilege and the opportunity to share with you on this program, Breaking Out of Depression. And we really thank her for being so forthcoming with the information that she has shared thus far. I want to give Holly a little time to relax while I do the thought for the week. So I don't know if our producer could put it up there, the thought for the week. Okay, so the thought of the week, or the thought for the week, any way you want to put it, it simply goes as this: the cost of all hope lies in the engagement of our existence to God's unchanging hands. I will repeat that. The cost of all hope lies in the engagement of our existence to God's unchanging hands. And I feel it is so apt and appropriate that we have Holly here, who has placed her future and her life in those moments in the hands of God. And He has remained consistently blessing her and keeping her to share this amazing message and story, especially of resilience with the people whose lives she's been so blessed and fortunate to touch. So, as we continue, Holly, thank you, Dexter, for the thought of the week. What does the future look like for Holly Porter, including the book that you are going to write or do with regards to resilience? What other things you have in the making for the future, other works? I know that you are an amazing entrepreneur, but are there other things that you'd love to accomplish or achieve as Holly Porter?
Yeah. Well, the biggest things that I feel like is my calling right now, the nonprofit is there. It's
Yeah.
up and going. Um, the software company, so I've had these companies that I've done, but I've never had a tech company. And I feel like
Ah,
that was a gift from God to get the idea in the first place. And then I sat on it for a couple years. And then the concept was there just before I got sick. I was going to partner with a company that had a billionaire backing them. And the fact the day I found out I had COVID, I was pitching them. And then we know the rest of the story. But during that week before I went into the hospital when I was sick, I knew they wanted it. But that was one of the things that God told me was don't partner with them. That wasn't for the highest and best use of this. So for me, the software company is my end game. I'm building it, scaling it, selling it because I have so many philanthropy projects I want to do. And it takes money. If you want to do good things in the world, it takes money, unfortunately. Yeah.
so, Holly, how much of an inspiration, and maybe this is just an obvious kind of situation, do you have on the people that you work with in your companies, the people that you meet with day to day, and they knowing your story and making a comparison in their minds to where you were at that time to where you're actually now? And as I'm saying, looking so blessed, how much of that is rubbing off on the people that work with you almost on a daily basis?
Well, I hope it is. I mean, I pray that I can be an inspiration and give people hope. That makes it lights me up because honestly, my top three values are relationships,
Hmm.
community,
Yeah,
and integrity. And so if I
right.
can have all those three things put together and build a community with integrity, but those relationships to me are everlasting. And I feel like people come in your life for a reason and a season. And there's people that I still talk to that went through the whole journey with me and they're still with me. And there's other people that have fallen off and I don't talk to very much. And those people they're not always your family. Sometimes your families are the ones that don't have your back. And you find out when you go through challenging times and you're faced against adversity, you find out who's really going to be there for you. And those people that are, you hang on tight to them. You take care of them. You be a good friend to them. You love them where they're at. Even if they're not, if those others don't have your back, you love them where they're at.
Wonderful. I love that. I love the philosophy and I love the meaning of it. Makes so much sense. Are you involved in any mentoring programs, Holly, particularly with young people?
Yeah, my grandkids. I have 17.
My goodness.
So because of starting these two companies and having to pull back because of my health,
Yeah,
currently I can't say. In the past, lots.
yeah.
I had a fundraising company, so we dealt with youth all the time. I was over 1,400 soccer kids, and
Wow.
I was also Rotary International member for 14 years. I was their second woman president in that organization, and we did a lot of youth groups. I helped charter a veterans park, and we had the youth involved in that because we chartered two high schools and two college youth groups for Rotary. And Rotary is an international organization that's all about service. Their motto is service above self. And so when I joined that, it wasn't for my business. I was all about what can we give? You know, you don't expect anything back, you just give. And And so I've loved that. So I would say my goal in the end game right now, it's to build this company so that I can have the funds to build. I have a laundry list of things that I want to do, and those are really the whys of why I'm doing things. And yeah, I love
So
it.
yeah, and to me that song is part of the big why that keeps you going and that keeps you moving in the right direction.
Yeah,
What about the mornings when you get up and you just don't feel like, wow, this is a day that's gonna be real tough. It's gonna be struggling for me. Do you have days like that when
yeah.
sometimes you feel, oh my gosh, I gotta get up this morning. I gotta. Do you have days like that, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah. So with long COVID, your health tends to go in waves. So
Hmm.
like some symptoms that I had a while ago will go away. You get new ones, and there's 200 symptoms attached to it. And I probably had 75 of them. And so you did like the ringing in my ears is constant. I have to wear ear speakers with things in my ears at night and a mask on my eyes and a CPAP. Thank you, COVID. I'm so beautiful at night. It's like, but that's my survival to get good sleep, and good sleep's important. So I think, yeah, I have days where I get up. I've had some tough ones. The last couple of weeks, I've had a couple where, but I'm not one that'll just stay in bed. I drag. I definitely drag. The fatigue's starting to be less all the time from the long COVID, which is I'm grateful for, because that's kind of what throws you down, is that when you just don't have the energy that you used to. So I'm getting that back. But the depression, yeah, I've had some setbacks on the software company and some naysayers that I haven't had before. And it's just figuring out, okay, that's just one person's opinion. It's different if everybody's telling you the same thing. But it's just figuring out, you get to a fork in the road and you have a choice to make. And which way are you going to go? Over to your right is the end game and the success that you're working so hard for. And if you take the left, it's dark and dreary, and you're going to have a lot more adversity. So which one do you want to choose?
Sharing, Holly. In terms of the work that you're doing and the stuff that you have had to make some changes or some sacrifice for, what about the aspect of exercise and diet? Is that incorporated as well in the things that you have to do to maintain good health?
Absolutely. So I'm a pretty healthy eater. I mean, we
Uh-huh.
all get off the bat wagon. I do like to be off sugar. That seems to be a big
Right.
culprit of how you feel. And if
Yeah.
you have autoimmune, I know it's tough, but if you're listening and you have some autoimmune issues, really, if you look at your diet, I just took sugar out again. This is my third week. And I can tell I just feel better. I never really had gut issues. I always said I had a stomach of steel. And this last year, that's come up. That's been a new symptom. And my gut has just been a mess. And my doctor said, well, it's probably from all the drugs they gave you. It just runs havoc, antibiotics, things like that, run havoc on your gut. So I'm working on that now. The hormonal issues it throws off. I mean, everything's off. So I didn't go with a fire hose and do everything at once. I did do things in stages, because when you do too much, you're not sure what's working and what's not. Even though I say better is better, you kind of got to know, like, do I want to be on $300 a month in supplements forever? Am I going to be able to cut some of these back? And so I do a thing called muscle testing if I need it. It's called a sway test. I just stand up and literally ask my body with whatever supplements in my hand if my body needs that today, not period, today. And if my body goes forward, that's my yes. And if it goes backwards, that's my no. And I really just use that for my gearing, because when you have autoimmune and things, you do have to self medicate, so to speak. And I mean that with your food, with your vitamins, with your water. And so I just try to do all those things. I mean, it's a struggle every day. It's a struggle when you don't feel good. And when you have weight that you could lose, which I have plenty I can lose, and you're eating healthy and you're doing all the things and it's not coming off, that's frustrating. And that's where depression again sits in, because I'm like, wow, I'm sacrificing so many things, not just food, so many things. And sometimes I can't walk. Sometimes it's, there's too much swelling going on, or the fatigue's too hard. And so I bought one of the shaker machines. What are those called? I can't remember what they're called. And it moves your lymphatic system around. And okay, that's a good option when I can't go for a walk. It's burning calories. It's helping my lymphatic system. And your vagus nerve's a big one with long COVID. Yeah.
It is.
So,
It is. Definitely. Definitely. Wow. This has so much potential for learning and education. I mean, okay, so there is a comment across by Gracie Vincent, and she's saying, Holly, praise God for all the good things He has done for you. You have been through a lot. God really answer our prayers.
mm,
That's for you, Holly.
that was sweet. When I told you about the painting,
Yes.
that was from my spiritual transformational experience. And
Uh-huh.
it was my mom who had passed away that came to me, and she's the one that said it wasn't my time and I needed to fight, because I was
Right.
praying, if this is how I'm going to die, just take me, because this is miserable and I don't like it. So let's either get better or let's get out of here. That was my prayer. And when she told me that, I had all these people in white appear to me that had passed on. And then I had people, behind, every time they just started chanting, fight, fight, fight. And there were so many people that I didn't recognize that I now know were the people on those prayer lists that all these friends and family had put on. I mean, we have social media now. I had friends all over the world. So I had so many people praying for me that I knew and I didn't know. And to know that all that support was there, that gave me the hope and the truth to keep fighting, because I knew they were there for a reason and I had all that support.
What she had to go through, what she had to face, what she had to deal with. And I'm sure it's a tremendous amount of knowledge that we are gaining, a tremendous amount of inspiration that we are having, and knowing and seeing her at this point in time, realizing what she had gone
Hi, we got a
Hi, I am Dexter Honore. I am usually in the background, controlling
through
everything that
to
is
not
going
only
on
survive,
over
as I
his
say,
back.
but to thrive. And in that excellent moment of thriving, it seems as though that Holly has made so much more for herself, her life, her family, and now she's a living, breathing example of resilience, recovery, overcoming, and thriving. So we are challenged a bit with the technology, but Holly is still with us. And so we will continue the interview at this time. Holly, how does it feel now that you are in this current position that you are in? And you have now to really value the experience and the life that you've been given, and you realize that the many things that you do today will impact upon your life on what happens tomorrow. How tough is it for you to pull out most of the times that good feeling, even when the day seems to be a drag?
Yeah. Well, sometimes I ask myself, why am I feeling like this? What's the emotion behind it? Why am I feeling it? Is it mine, or am I worried about somebody else maybe, and that emotion's coming across from somebody else? That's really how and it's a practice that is in progress. I'm working on it all the time. Just remembering, when instead of sulking, because we all can do that and have a pity party, it's like, okay, remember the why. Remember why you're doing what you're doing. What's the end result? I'm a visionary, so I always have the end result. This is part of the working backwards and working for a solution. Okay, I don't feel that great today, or emotionally, something that happened has got me down today. All right, feel that, feel through it. How long am I going to let me have it? And how long am I going to be down? Is it going to be today? Is it going to be for a week? Make that decision and decide what for you. Do I need to fill it for an hour? Okay, I'm going to just go do something for myself for an hour and fill it. And then I'm going to get back to what I need to be doing. That's kind of how I handle things.
Dexter Honore on camera. Is there something you want to ask Holly or comment you want to make at this time, Dexter? Oh, he seems to be engaged otherwise. I'm seeing him on screen. Wonderful. So, all right, I see a thumbs up. I know probably you would have wanted to ask something of Holly. We are not getting your audio at all. I don't know what's happening there. Okay, maybe you can type it if you're not getting your audio. Maybe you could type it in the private chat and she'll be willing only to respond or answer as the case might be. So, Holly, looking forward to the future, what are some of the things that you'd like to tell people with regards to taking care of themselves and being aware of the threat of certain diseases out there, the choices that they need to make so that they can insulate themselves against even the aspects of long COVID, as you've had the experience. And so you want what's best for them, best for best.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you would ask them to absolutely be very aware of, be conscious of with regards to their personal health?
Right. Well, I think women have gotten long COVID more than men statistically. And we're a lot of times the caretaker in our home, whether it's just our spouse or we have children living with us. Nowadays, a lot of people have their children and their grandchildren living with them, or they're taking care of the grandchildren. There's so many with those circumstances. And I would just say to them that your self-care has got to be on the agenda. I know if you're overwhelmed and you have to work still, a lot of people couldn't work that have long COVID or autoimmune type things. I think it's just finding that balance and realizing if you're not, it's the oxygen mask whole theory, right? You put it on you first before you could save anyone else. Because if you can't breathe, you're not going to be able to help anybody. Same scenario is take that time to take what's your self-care practice look like. And I got told that so many times by, counselors, whoever, that I needed to really be doing that. The challenge for me is I had all these lists of things that I needed to get done and work and everything else. And that self-care for me was healthcare. That was my self-care. And they're like, that doesn't really count. I'm like, it has to, because when I was walking for 45 minutes and I was in my hyperbaric for 90 minutes, and for a while I do it every other day still because I have a lung disease from COVID. And that's an hour, what is that, 2 hours and 15 minutes for just walking and the hyperbaric. It's like, oh, that's a lot of time just for healthcare, right? And then you go do your supplements and then you make good food and anything else you're doing for your health to make it matter. It just, I didn't have time for, a bubble bath or, what can I do for self-care? Read a book. I mean, I'm a multitasker. Even now when I get on my shaker machine, because I can't think of the word. That's another long COVID issue. Right now, I get on that. I'm like doing my little red light face things. I'm listening to a Audible. I mean, I just, that's how my mind goes. I feel like, okay, if I'm going to get this in, if I'm going to do this for myself, then I've got to multitask and add. And that's not always the best way to do it. That's not the best self-care, but it's reality for me. So that's how I handle it.
Wow, wonderful. So, of all the books that you have written or been a part of co-written, which one, Holly, stands out the most for you?
Probably my very first one, which I have a men's version and a women's version. It was short. It's only about 60 pages. You can read it in about 30 minutes. It's a test. It's a mindset book, and
Hmm.
it's called Inbox, Outbox, Unbox, No Box. Four
Ah,
steps to delete your box thinking.
okay.
So you take a quiz in the beginning, and the quiz, I have to make it fun. And I love shoes. So it's, if you were a shoe, what kind of shoe would you be? And there's 13 questions that you answer. It's a personality persona test. And then you add them up, and A, B, C, D. And then you put yourself in that category of the shoe. So there's loafers and flats. So loafers are men, flats are women. That's the same
Yeah.
shoe.
Yeah.
There's high heels and dress shoes. Those are the other two. Boots and sneakers. And so then it teaches you in that shoe persona, the rest of the book goes through each one, and it teaches you the steps to get out of your box thinking in your shoe style. So that
Wow.
was a fun book. And I love personality profiling. With my salon, I did a lot of image designing and things like that, and it fit in. And so that was probably my fun one. I also did your money profiles, and that was a shoe in for money success. And it was using the same, it looked the same. They were just little box books, and I call them the box books. And so the money profile teaches you money mindset, and the other teaches you, brain mindset.
Okay.
Anyway, long
Wonderful.
answer.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Holly. We appreciate that. And we continue to appreciate you. Now, in terms of the mindset, and I've heard someone said the heart set as well. What do you think it really requires for people to live a life of resilience in terms of facing the day-to-day challenges that we do from time to time? Long COVID aside, or the after effects of COVID aside,
Yeah.
if you were to give someone, some simple day-to-day advice in terms of the mindset that they ought to have based on your experience, it took you something in your mind, in your heart to fight, to be
Yeah.
resilient, to bounce back. You realize you had something to look forward to. You say you're a visionary
Yeah.
and you start with the end game in mind, but how can you help people to adapt that kind of thinking for themselves?
Yeah. Well, YouTube University is free. You can learn anything you want. If you want
Right.
to learn how to have a better mindset, just get on YouTube. You'll be a plethora of information. I remember a nurse whispering in my ear, and it was when I was fighting from the first intubation to the second, and I was working really hard to keep my oxygen up so I wouldn't have to get intubated again. And I remember her coming in and saying, she was mean. I mean, kind of. I mean, it was a good thing she was mean because of what she said, but she said, your sisters told me that you're a speaker and you talk about, mindset, and that you can do hard things, and you know all this. And I'm telling you right now, this is all in your mind. This isn't your body. This is your mind. And do you want to get revented? I'm looking at her like, are you crazy? Like, no, I don't want to get revented. You have to fight through this, and you just need to do it. And I just remember that. First of all, I was thinking that was nice of my sisters to brag me up to her, right? And then I'm thinking, now she knows. Now I have to fight. And I think it's just learning, like figuring out the how. You don't have to know how. You just need to know where to find the how. So YouTube University is free. That's the first thing. If you can, hire a coach that does mindset. Be in a mastermind that teaches mindset. There's so many places to get help, paid and unpaid, that, and I work with people like that all the time. I love people that are entrepreneurs and business people. I love working with them. And of course, I've coached for years. And I love that because it's just figuring out, usually a business coach, really the challenge is the personal stuff. The business is suffering because of the personal stuff, 9 times out of 10. So they hire you for a business coach, but really it ends up being a personal coach. And that's fine. They don't realize that. You just work through it. And when you work through the personal things, all of a sudden the business just starts flowing and takes off and making money.
Like a plan. Sounds like a plan. Wow. Thank you for sharing, Holly. So I want to share again the thought of the week. I think this is the most appropriate time. And I want to just help people to remember that we can have so many wonderful and positive things in our lives despite what we think life may have thrown at our direction. And we just have to remember whose hands we have to place it in. So, the thought of the week, one more time, is the cost of all hope lies in the engagement of our existence to God's unchanging hands. The cost of all hope lies in the engagement of our existence to God's unchanging hands. I say it's cost because you really have to invest your faith in God and give Him that opportunity to just bring about all the necessary things that you need in your life to take you to the next level so that you can overcome the challenges, just like Holly is sharing with us with regards to her personal story and her accomplishments. So, Holly, with regards to people that you deal with on a day to day basis, what are some of the things that they tell you that they are faced with in terms of personal challenges? Is there a set pattern, or do you see many different things coming out from people?
I think people lost a lot of hope, especially during COVID. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot, I mean, I can't think of anything in the history of the world that affected the whole world at one time as COVID.
Right, right.
Everyone knows, everyone has a COVID story, everyone knows what it is, everyone
Yeah,
suffered,
yeah.
everyone, didn't get to work during that time. There were so many things. And I think we're seeing so many people not recovering from that. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's like that's why people don't want to hear about long COVID. They
Yeah.
want to be done. It's a negative. They want to put it in the past and forget about it. Yet 100 million people are suffering. So I'm feeling that what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, it's just that domino effect. It's like, oh, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. And they can't seem to pick them up fast enough before they're falling down and crashing. And people are just having to pivot, change what they were doing before. One thing COVID taught us is that we can work remote. And look how many people are. I think that's brilliant. More families can be together. You're not having accidents on the freeways from people traveling so much. There's so many good things also that came out of it. Let's focus on what came out of it that was good and positive than focusing on all the negative. If we live in that, that's you're just creating more of that. If you live in the positive, think of all the good things. And I would say for those people that are in that space, a gratitude practice. YouTube that. There's a free one. Go YouTube what a gratitude practice would look like and live in that space, because when you're serving someone else, you're loving on someone else, it gets you out of that icky space of your own head and the victim mentality. So I think for that.
Yeah. For me, Holly, the most powerful message that I get from your experience is how amazing the Creator has made our bodies and our minds, that we can actually find within us the ability to be resilient, to thrive, to bounce back, literally come back from the dead, so to speak,
Yeah.
and to make better choices about life. So, how important is it for people to have a spirit of humility and a spirit of gratitude, considering all these things?
I think that is a world changer. And think about it. If everyone lived in gratitude and humility, we wouldn't have the world that we have now. It would be
Uh-huh.
a better place for all. When people talk about world peace, that's what they want, world peace. Yeah, that's true. But
Yes.
what's it going to take to get that? We all have to start within, and it starts with us. I ran for political office a couple times, not my journey, by the way. Those losses for me were my biggest wins in my whole life, because
Okay.
my life began after that. And I think they just need to figure out, what do you want things to look like? And then the how.
Wow. Yeah, wonderful. Amazing. What a story, Holly. Wow, what a story. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking that we have so much to be grateful and thankful for. And on a recent episode, I was telling someone the best things in life are free.
Mm.
When you get up in the morning and you see the sun rise.
Yeah.
And it's a glorious sight and it's a glorious feeling just getting that vitamin D. You don't pay for that.
No.
But what price do you put on that? I mean, can you actually pay for that? Or a lovely moonlit night and the moon is shining in all its glory in its own way, and the stars are surrounded, and you just have to be like in awe. Wow. I mean, all of that is part of creation. But when you think about what we have to do in terms of surviving, I mean, like your medical bill was $1 million.
Yeah.
And I think about what is the price that we really put on our ability to live a life that is healthy, prosperous, full of joy, and meaningful. I'm not talking about the money. I'm talking about the things that we are prepared to give up, the things that we are prepared to
Sure.
sacrifice. So, in other words, how do we help people to realize that there's an opportunity for us to place tremendous value
Yeah.
just on being alive? How do we do that?
Gosh, we'd be world solving big problems if I don't know how we do that. Let's see. I'm Every life is important, no matter what. And I think we just need to realize how valuable life really is and how easily it can be gone. I mean, tomorrow, like I said, we none of us know when it's our time. I'm ready. I mean, I was never afraid to die ever. I thought I'd die young. I still might. We don't know, right? And yeah, I think it's just living every moment and having that humility, like you said, to know there's always something bigger and better for us. There's a plan. And when you're down and you feel like you're not worth anything to anybody and you feel like you're not enough, that's when you need to get a plan beforehand. What's going to help you get out of that so that you already know? We all have down days. Like I said, how long is it going to last for you? You can predetermine that. Set your mindset. You can predetermine that. Somebody told me the other day, when you go to bed at night, if you want to reset things like in your body, talk to yourself at night before you go to bed every single night. They said do it for 21 days and just keep talking to yourself and reset the vagus nerve. There's activities you can find, figure out what it is, what's going wrong, what can I do to fix it, what's the solution. Always be looking for the solution, not the problem.
Yeah, that's a wonderful attitude and a great mindset to have. As we come to the end of this amazing episode, I'm reminded that there are many people out there who sometimes stay, Holly, in ignorance because they either ashamed of their condition or they are afraid to say what they are feeling or what they're experiencing. How important is it for people to, in the early stages, address something that may appear to be a symptom of long COVID?
Well, first of all, trace back when the symptoms started. So I would definitely recommend somebody keeping a journal, a medical journal. I know I have someone with long COVID that even made one. It's on Amazon. It's like $12. And she made it so you can know who your doctors are, what they said. The biggest thing, I think that I made the mistake in the beginning when I went into my doctor and he gave me a life-threatening diagnosis. It was my first diagnosis, by the way, of many. And I didn't have anyone with me. So an advocate is so important to have with you, whether it's on the phone, whether it's in person, or whether you record it as a last resort. So you have the recording, because I had so much COVID fog going through. I miss words. I say things that aren't correct. It's just part of the long COVID. And sometimes it's worse than others. So for me to have to remember, especially when I was really sick in the beginning, you need that advocate. I mean, I pretty much got a death sentence from the doctor and he just acted like it was another day. I mean, he basically turned around to me and said, we probably ought to talk about a lung transplant for you. Like, it wasn't like, hi, how are you? Oh, we've got your test back. Here's your results. I'm like, start with that. I was the bedside manner was horrible. By the way, I fired him after the next time I went to him. I decided that he wasn't my doctor. I'm like, no, I didn't need that. But you need that advocacy to remember, because what we think we hear and what we hear aren't always the same. So that's the biggest. Keep a journal of all your medical stuff. But if you start doing that and things start showing up, or if you remember and go back and go, oh, I had this symptom. Oh, that did happen since I got COVID. Even though I just had a little cold, it wasn't bad. Probably long COVID. No mercy. Shows no mercy.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Amazing. Amazing, amazing. So, Holly, if you had any parting words to say to people with regards to dealing with long COVID, dealing with the level of depression that could come and the level of anxiety, the PTSD,
Yeah.
uh, how would you express it to them in terms of your experience and now so many things that you have learned that you didn't know before?
Yeah. I was always willing, I would say be open to the possibilities of anything. Look into things. It doesn't always have to be about drugs. There's other ways. I did transcranial magnetic stimulation called TMS. I probably did it earlier, but that was for anxiety and depression. I've done counseling. So I've done all this work, and I think, but those weren't drugs. Those were natural ways. So just really, everybody has intuition. Listen to your gut, because your gut will steer you in the right direction more than anybody else. Nobody cares about your health as much as you do, or should. Yeah.
Yeah, we are basically coming to the end. We just about 2.5 minutes to go. And I really want to thank Holly Porter for joining us and being so open and so vulnerable about the stuff that she has gone through. It's an amazing experience that she has been sharing with us. I have learned so much that I did not know before. And this information, you were able to get this right here on Breaking Out of Depression. I mean, you just can't pay for that. It's priceless coming from Holly, from a personal experience and all the knowledge and the information that she have now. There's something that's lurking in the back of my mind as she just spoke about alternative medicine. And I'm thinking about people who have taken drugs for certain aspects of survival. And I think about the side effects, Holly. It seems as though sometimes when they take certain medication, they have to take another certain medication because side effects crop up. But it appears to be something that is necessary because they have to continue on the original medication. So I think what you have just hinted is extremely important for people to understand, that they should look at and explore all the medical possibilities that exist before settling on one and making a decision, simply for the fact that you may have to deal with certain side effects. Now, while I am not the professional, and Holly isn't claiming to be the professional either, but from her personal experience, as she just told us, it was important to always have an advocate there, second or third opinion from professionals who will be able to tell us, based on our body stats and our medical history, certain things or certain drugs is better for us than others. And it does not necessarily have to be something over the counter. It could be alternative medication. So we really thank Holly Porter for joining with us and being on this episode of Breaking Out of Depression. And as we go, we want to thank all those who have supported and continue to support and be with us on this program. Gracie Vincent, thank you for your comments and your continued support. Remember, we are coming back again next Tuesday, God's willing, at 6:30 p.m. AST or Eastern Standard Time. A new guest will be on as we continue to build and develop and grow this community. As we go, we want to leave you with what we always remind you: do all that you can to continue to break out of depression. Godspeed, God bless, thank you. We love you guys. Until next time, stay safe and stay blessed for now.
There ain't got no way, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord, no. Ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord, no. Ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord, no. Ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. Trouble in my way, but daily hear me say, ain't got no way, ain't got no way, ain't got no way, ain't got no way. The harvest is plenty, Lord, but the workers are so few. Ain't got no way I'm gonna